The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Hey, it's episode number 119. It is 189 days till the man burns as of this recording. I am at this exact moment in New York City, and it's looking like I'll be bi-coastal for the foreseeable future. I have been bi-curious for a long time, said the podcast host mischievously with his pinky ever so slightly touching his pursed lips. The first time I came here, a friend who's lived in various cities around the world kept saying to me that New York is like Burning Man to her. And I didn't really understand what she was getting at until now. Having spent the past couple of weeks battling the elements just to run simple errands like doing the laundry. There's this quote, this Larry Harvey quote that's on the org's landing page that pretty much covers it. Communities are not produced by sentiment or mere goodwill. They grow out of a shared struggle. And New York's got that struggle part down to a fucking science, let me tell you. Hopefully, it won't be too much of a struggle on our part to bring you some more New York City Burning Man community-based episodes in the coming months, as well as some more LA ones currently in the works. And, of course, on the topic of community shared struggles, I personally do not envy the org and some of the difficult decisions they need to make in the coming months. I'm hearing whispers in burner communities from around the country. Some folks are saying they're headed out regardless of if an official Burning Man happens or not. I don't know, man. I'm not one for like hardline stances. I did share in our last episode's intro that our team will not be attending any shenanigans because we really liked what the Thunderdome folks had to say on the subject. So you want to kind of pop back to that if you want to. We'll put a link to their statement in the show notes if you want to see what they said. The only hard stance I'm taking personally is that whether or not an official Black Rock City is erected in the dust, the man will burn, as he did in 2020, on beaches and small gatherings and parks and deserts all around the world. Because home is inside every one of us. And we hope that, if nothing else, every episode of this show is simply a reminder of that. We are extremely excited to bring you today's interview. Our guest is Adrian London, the insanely talented artist behind the spectacular metallic horse with wings, which led the charge from Center Camp towards the man in Black Rock City last year. That was the placement, right?
Yeah, the keyhole.
Every year, folks have that experience when they see a particular piece of it at exactly like the right moment, and their entire world melts. And seeing the Pegasus in all its majesty was that moment for so many participants in 2019. This massive steel horse flapping its incredible wings, the motion and the movement, the anatomy, and you think it can't possibly get any more spectacular, and then you're riding past again at night and you see it shoot flames for the first time, and then your brain really implodes. Well, that was my experience anyway. I could be projecting. Today we'll get to know Adrian, what moves him, what drives him, and we'll totes talk about horsies. Never has the opening theme to this podcast felt so perfectly appropriate. That was the funny little realization that hit me as I was writing today's show notes. Then after the chat with Adrian, we were just beyond geeked out to share an impossible, not to shake one's butt to set from none other than Gorgon City. Yes, Gorgon City, this was their first Burning Man, and the set you'll be hearing was recorded at Playground. It was Wednesday night, which was Opulent Temple night at Playground, and that's the night that Gorgon City played the set that you'll be hearing after the chat. Producer Louis got the clearance to share the set on our show like the other week. And we were both just like, ooh, like what interview are we going to pair this with? And then producer Lana books Adrian. And we were like, yeah, that can't possibly get any more perfect. I'm done. It's done. It's the perfect show. Like, stick a fork in me. It's over. Today's episode is entitled Wings of Glory. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and it felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
Hello, man! What an introduction.
Nice. How do you feel? Do you feel like ready for the podcast of your dreams?
I feel all fired up and just full of emotions and memories and wow!
Excellent.
What an intro.
Excellent. No, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm thank you so much for giving us your Sunday and sitting down. And I know you're kind of like knee deep in moving some pieces around and projects that you're involved with right now. There's a horse making its way. Like, what are you working on at this exact second that's taking up a lot of your time, and how you ended up in New York City?
Well, I guess right now it's more just work. It's still great to have these opportunities to travel and see people again, especially nowadays. It's really I really cherish that. I'm just moving an older mechanical horse from the Morris Museum in New Jersey and moving it to the Kinetic Art Festival in Boynton Beach, Florida. So again, it's a lot of work, and I guess I haven't been working much in the past couple months, so it really kicked my ass.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to do it.
What how many horses do you think you have floating around out there? Or do you think? I imagine you know.
I don't know exactly. I mean, I have a couple on display that are moving around, and then all the ones that I've sold over the past year. So a good dozen, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What so are you needing to like take the piece apart and then reassemble it at the Arts Festival in Connecticut, or what's involved in that?
Yeah. So, moving sculpture around, not an easy thing to do. The bigger the crate is or whatever, the more expensive. So you gotta pack it in as small as possible, and just big metal parts coming apart, bolts, nuts and bolts, and heavy lifting and a lot of cursing and shoving, screwing plywood down, and then the whole thing in reverse when I get there.
Yeah.
And then the year after I'll do it again.
Because this is speaking as a person who has like a hard time like literally just going to the post office to send like a package. Like I'm super intrigued by everything that you're describing, because it's like part of the science of being an artist that works like in your field and setting up showings. Like part of it is even figuring out things like this, the logistics of transporting a piece. Like what do you just kind of like, is it something you just kind of figured out over time? Do you sit down and lay out logistics on how to take it apart? Like, geek me out a little bit on what's going on right now in that process.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of science involved in that, and I guess the more you plan ahead, always with everything, the better things are gonna turn out. But obviously, there will be things you have to improvise on. But it's there's a lot of moving parts. You have to let people know when you're arriving. I'm usually late. Mm-hmm. I had to fly here from Colorado. I didn't even know where I was going to fly out from because I was in a camper chasing snowstorms on ski resorts. So I didn't even know where I was going. I could have flown out from Wyoming or Seattle or Denver. Yeah. It ended up being Denver. But you just play it by ear, and with experience, you just have some vague plan, and it'll work out either way, one way or another.
What do you think, if this is an answerable question, what is the strangest thing or the most unusual thing about shipping a piece of art with all these different moving parts that you hadn't thought about until you started to have this experience, or that the average person might not think about?
The most unusual thing,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Maybe I can say that what as opposed to what people might think, like my sculptures are not so fragile, even the mechanical ones. So I still can be like I can just pack it myself. I don't have to hire like a professional art moving company and just like put in a crate and get a regular old semi truck to come pick it up. So
Yeah.
luckily, they're pretty robust in that sense.
They were like, it was almost like they were kind of made to be in a place like Burning Man long before you actually ended up out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I wasn't planning for that,
Yeah.
but I mean, I built them originally made to be outside. Like they're all usually stainless steel, so they can be in a wet environment. Um, and yeah, I mean, they've lasted really long.
Yeah.
Like all the oldest one, the first one I ever made, it's still running somehow, and that really blows my mind because
Yeah.
when I look at it now, it's like, oh my god, like the craftsmanship is so bad, the design, like everything. I always improve. I always redesign them, and so just looking back is really interesting, and
Right, right. Yeah, because I've personally interviewed artists, I've met many of them on Playa, for whom shifting into creating and focusing more on durability was a brand new experience for them. But for you, like it was something that was already sort of built into the way that you create art.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's just being on the East Coast. The environment is pretty rough here too. So um, making pieces already able to withstand being outdoors, I guess makes it fine for the player too.
Yeah. Kinda
I
like
mean,
that, yeah.
everything mechanical actually lasts longer on the Western Coast. Like there are so many more older cars in Western states because it's drier. There's not as much rain, and the salt that they do put to melt snow here on the East Coast, like that just like kills cars.
Yeah.
So maybe it's actually not that bad of an environment. It's just really dusty at Burning Man. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say on the West Coast, the primary thing that I deal with in Southern California is like cars close to the beach get their paint rusted,
Yeah,
but they do like you can go way longer in your oil changes.
yeah. I guess it's more like Arizona, like the Southwest,
Sure.
Nevada, New Mexico, place like that.
Yeah. 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 I know. I was doing some research sort of on your background, and as soon as I had the question in my head of like why horses, I saw an interview where you were saying people are always asking me why horses. So, and in that moment, I made the decision. I'm like, all right, let's get the horse question answered immediately, and sort of move through. I know you grew up with horses. You come from a family of horsemen, I think is the way that you described it.
Yeah.
Tell us sort of a little bit sort of about where you grew up and it's kind of like your earlier days, long before Burning Man and all this came into your life.
Mm.
You're a wee lad exploring art and horses.
Okay. Yeah, I had the extreme privilege of growing up working with horses, with my dad, who he grew up riding horses in France with his father, who was a horse veterinarian in the French army and all that, and like so big on horses in the family on my father's side, and my dad wasn't riding for years, and then he actually discovered polo in Colorado one summer, about maybe like 20 years ago, and he like immediately took off on that. Bought a pickup truck and a trailer and started buying horses, and so I grew up working with polo ponies. Training them, playing a bit of polo myself. I know that's a weird thing to say.
Playing a bit of Play Yourself?
Yeah. I don't like it that much, but I can do it if I have to. If I'm there at a game and one of the riders got killed, or
Yeah.
it's
Because that's the thing that happens. All of a sudden, people have to play polo.
Yeah,
The revolution will not be televised.
you got to keep up the traditions. Just luckily they don't play with a dead man's head anymore. So.
Yeah, that is helpful. But if you really had to, you'd be able to figure it out.
Yeah. So it was an opportunity for me to just work with horses and to ride horses and to just like gallop in a wide open field by myself on a horse, just like so epic. And it just there's a real magic that kicks in when you get to a point where you're super comfortable on a horse and you can just let her rip. Like, and some horses they love to run, and like they can't even stop, or it's really hard to stop them. And there's just that energy, that drive, and they're mostly domesticated and tame, but there will always be that wild aspect in them. And you see it when they're together in their little herd in the pasture, or like when you release them for the day and they kind of run off all together and they start like kicking all over the place, because that's their instinct. Like when they start running, like, oh, maybe there's a predator behind us, so they just all start kicking and running at the same time. And it's like, that's just like the wild energy, and it's always there. And to really get to experience that and feel it and touch it like in person, I think that's what my main inspiration is, and that's why I've done mostly horse sculptures, and that's what I search to capture and express in my artwork.
Yeah, there's a lot of really romantic imagery
Yeah.
that you're just painting. I if I may, I'd like to ask some stupid questions about horses, because I've been on a horse once. Like I've always been a big city boy, so I want to ask some questions about what that experience is like. Do you remember the very first time you were on a horse?
I remember some of the earliest times, and that was like a friend of my parents had a property upstate New York, and they had some horses. So I'm sure I was like a little baby, maybe like sitting with my dad on a horse, or just really young. And yeah, just a couple memories like that. And maybe when I was maybe around 8 years old or 10, like after my dad started playing polo, there was a point where I started to train the horses. Like you sit on one horse and you're holding two other horses, and you're just running around the track, so you're exercising 3 at a time, or some people do 5 or 7 at a time, which is nuts. But I did that when I was like, I don't know, like 10 years old. It's totally nuts.
Can you do you feel like when a horse is excited to ride with you, like to be ridden? Is there an energy there?
Yeah. So horses, love to run. I would think they do. Like if there's 2 of them running next to each other, they do get competitive, and their ears tilt backwards, and they start to race and start to provoke each other in a way. So yeah, you definitely feel it. And there are some horses, like my dad had this one horse. His name was Jupiter, and he was a race horse that wasn't fast enough to continue racing, but he was the fastest polo horse. And it was absolutely scary to be on this horse. And to because when you let this thing rip, when you let the reins go, this thing will just go. And you have to know what you're doing to allow that to happen. Like you really have to be able to stop that horse when you need to, and judge your distances. And oh man, this gives me chills,
Yeah.
And one day that horse, he was playing in a game, and he had like some kind of nerve pinch all of a sudden, and he just started going crazy. I don't know, my dad must have fallen off of him or something, and he came running back to the barns. I was there. I kind of was able to intercept him and catch him, and he was just like bucking like crazy, like just shotgun shots from his back leg, just shooting in the air. And I was just like trying to, you know, calm him down somehow. He was just going nuts, and eventually this other guy managed to give it a like an anesthetic and calmed it down. But yeah, just like another wild experience with that horse.
Do you think? Have you? I mean, I don't know. It could be like projecting or anthropomorphizing. Like, do you ever feel like you've seen a horse feel bad for knocking a person off? Like, do they? What is their bond like with their person? Like, that's what I'm trying to get a grasp of.
Well, I guess they're maybe not. They're not always totally happy about having a human riding on them, and they always want to just. If you let them, they just want to go back to the pasture and eat grass. So, yeah, I wouldn't say they ever feel bad if they're bucking someone off. It's because they don't want them there. So,
Get the fuck off me.
yeah,
That's funny. Yeah, that's super interesting. I'd said that I wanted to ask the horse question and move on, but it's just a lot of like the imagery that you're painting, like has. I don't know. It's such a powerful part of the imagery that America has about it's the entity, like the American identity, the frontier, and having that deep connection to sort of our roots, where so many of us like end up in the city and we only see horses like when we go to the zoo or some sort of outing.
absolutely.
To have grown up in that environment, I imagine would give you a perspective about, I don't know, kind of almost like the soul of our roots, not just as Americans, but as French, but where we came from. And I wonder if you ever think about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's part of our evolution. It's part of the evolution of civilization is taming the horse. I mean, before there were cars or motorcycles, there were just horses for thousands of years.
Right.
That's all we had to, and I guess oxes and stuff to pull the plows and agriculture and just getting around faster, which is always on our minds today. But yeah, I mean the questions of horse that's what I try to convey in my artwork. So you need to ask those questions, and I'm totally happy to explain all that because it's really relevant. And it was amazing. It's amazing to see wild horses in Nevada. Actually, I haven't seen that many wild horses, and they're a big part of our history. Definitely. And probably back in the day, most people knew how to ride a horse. You just had to. It's like a driver's license.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the because some of the notes that I'd made about like questions that I wanted to ask were more sort of connected to like anatomy, because I imagine that obviously like the piece that I'm going first on is Wings of No Glory. Now I'm saying Wings of No Glory like producer Lana accidentally said before recording. Wings of Glory. Some of the questions that came to my mind were about like anatomy, because sort of as a photographer and illustrator, like that's where my mind goes. But I would like to hear more sort of about where those connections are coming from you, about like the motivation behind the energy of it, what that represents to you. Why the very first time you made a horse sculpture? Was it simply because it was a thing that you were physically used to seeing, or some part of the energy or story behind it that was moving you to create that piece?
I guess that would go back to when I was first learning metalwork and metal sculpture, and I don't know exactly how it came to be that I think the first thing I made was like a life-size horse head. I was probably just experimenting to start making things and different things, and that's always like a very unclear path as to where to go when you're starting out, or just making new things for the first time some different things, it's very challenging always to, you know, make those leaps of faith into the dark as an artist or whatever you're creating.
Yeah. Because I know I understand your father was a violin maker.
Yeah,
Is that correct? Okay.
He is a violin maker.
Is okay.
Yeah.
And I want to say that you explained in an interview that I was seeing that there's sort of like a rigidity to the craft that you were observing, and it's almost like as an artist you've kind of felt like the way that the horses you were describing just a minute ago were, like you want to go and run in the pasture and run free, and the violin felt more like the horse staying in a stable.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I did my share of violin making. I made a whole bunch of instruments, and you know, I will always appreciate those skills, and I'll always use them. They'll always be there in my toolbox. But yeah, it's a very strange, tiny world. It's a very formal craft. There's very little room for innovation and creativity. Most violin makers, they copy older instruments, and again, that's because that's what people like to buy. That's what musicians want. Is
Right.
They all want an Italian Stradivarius violin. So, and there are some violin makers who make you know, like an interesting, funky new design. My dad has made a couple, but he doesn't make too many of them. But the world of metal sculpture or art and sculpture is just, there are no limits, and especially with metal, the sky is the limit. You know, it's
Right.
the possibilities are almost endless.
Right. Yeah, because as I was sort of hearing this story and hearing your story right now, like the story that it's bringing up for me is being in art school and it being explained to me when I got into art school that the way it used to be was that art education would focus on copying the masters and then breaking the rules. And when I got into art school, the artists that I studied under, their attitude was more, let's just break past that first part. And I've always wondered if that served me or hurt me, because it sounds like you did have that experience of like working within the more rigid structures of the masters and then breaking past that to create something new and wild.
I mean, I guess you could say that with the violin making, but with the artwork, I went to the Art Students League in New York. That's where I learned metalwork and metal sculpture, and there weren't any art teachers. There was a metal instructor I learned from, this guy named Cliff Dufton, very very skilled metalworker. Very fortunate to have him as a teacher. But you know, I was just learning how to weld, how to machine, how to blacksmith something. So it's all more technical skills. But I like to say that I'm more self-taught in the sense of the art aspect.
Right. What about metal attracted you?
Yeah, I guess I'll say after high school, I did a year of industrial design in San Francisco, and I dropped out. I didn't like it. Then
can I ask what you didn't like about it?
I don't know, like I just felt it wasn't serious. It was like all the students, all the kids were just like smoking pot in a corner, and and we were designing, you know, like it just seemed like it was just a process, a system that it would take so long to get to where you were trying to get to. Like, I wanted to design cars, you know, so it's like when am I gonna get to design a car?
Yeah,
it's like this gonna take years and years, and I don't know, it didn't feel right to me, and I never regret that decision. I'm a proud college dropout. Just like all the greatest geniuses in the world, they're all dropouts.
No, if I could go
Or
back,
some
I
of
would
them.
have I would have totally dropped out.
Yeah.
Because even though I feel like the mantra was to not hold us within rigid structures, there were just other rigid structures that I had to learn and break past from.
Right. I mean, obviously, there's some careers that you can't go without it.
Right.
But so I dropped out, and then bounced around the Western United States at a couple jobs here and there. I worked at a ski resort, and I just had this kind of curiosity for metalwork. I don't know. It was just there. It was like if I ever saw someone welding in their backyard, I was like, "Whoa, that seems interesting. I want to try that." And eventually, thank God, I managed to start doing it. At the Art Students League, like over 10 years ago.
That's so interesting to me that it almost seems like immediately the running theme was that you were attracted to transportation, like modes of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're riding horses, and then it turned into I want to make cars.
Yeah.
You went back to I'm gonna sculpt horses.
Yeah. I mean, cars are sculptures.
Yeah.
They a fast car is just a very aerodynamic sculptural object that we can ride in, and they're made out of metal. And I feel like my metal horses are very similar to cars.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Have you ever just explored the simple question of like why create? Is that something you think about or have thought about? Like why? Why make things?
I guess I've always been an artist, and I come from a family of artists. Like my dad, violin maker. His mom was an artist, painter, ceramics. And in school, I was always the artist. So that's probably something I never questioned.
Yeah.
It was just
It's ingrained in your DNA.
inherent.
Did you draw?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you prefer to draw lifelike things or out of the imagination?
Probably a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't draw very well. Not like,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I don't try to.
Do you draw your pieces before you start creating them, or do they just start coming together more physically?
I usually draw them. Yeah, it all starts with drawings. Everything, even the packages, like all the main logo or the artwork was the first drawing. When I'm like, okay, now I need to make the Pegasus.
Yeah.
It starts with a drawing.
Producer Lana says he draws very well.
You're looking it up. It's like, oh, we pulled up some drawings here. We can see.
Producer Lana like actually created the Kickstarter documentary.
That's right.
For Wings of Glory,
the movie. So
she has had firsthand experience observing.
She has footage.
Yeah.
Proof footage of me drawing.
And she says he's a good drawer.
Okay. Well,
well, because it's almost like the drawing is like, if it's a movie, the drawing is the screenplay.
Mm-hmm. The script.
How close is the final piece to your drawings?
Well, that's comparing apples and bananas, like
right.
a 2D quick sketch to a 3-dimensional metal. It's not anywhere. I mean, I don't know. I guess that would be up to the viewer to say, but
right.
Because you just can't capture it in a drawing.
Right.
You can only try to express maybe the most fundamental energy or emotion of the piece that you're trying to make. That's kind of the purpose of it, is to anchor that initial idea or feeling, and just to have a basic idea to work off of, and obviously I could elaborate more on those drawings to help the creative process, but it's usually just a couple quick sketches.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like you lay out the plot and then allow the actors to improvise a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Because the metalwork is a serious process, and you can only have so much control over it. Like there's some things that will just be defined by the metal itself, like whether it's this way or that way.
Yeah. It's common to have experiences where the metal decides that it wants to do something different than what you really want it to do.
Yeah, or like when I'm sculpting the sheet metal, for instance, like that's maybe one of the hardest parts, and uh, I can only try as hard to make it into the form that I want it to be, uh, but it has its limits.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Has it? Have you ever had a piece like dramatically diverge from the original drawing, or are they like fairly close?
Hmm. Uh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's mainly because in metalwork, like you kind of have to have a plan
Mm.
because you're making kind of final decisions, and it's not like if I'm sculpting clay, and you can. It's easy to change or for it to flow into something. 'Cause it's just when you're doing metalwork, like that's what you're going for.
Right.
So.
The I want to go back to you're describing leaving industrial design,
Hmm.
because almost like the story that's coming to me is that you're interested in, like, to me it's almost like it's still anatomy. Like in industrial design you were exploring the anatomy of a car, but you're almost like going back to re-exploring the
Absolutely.
anatomy of the horse.
Absolutely.
Where did you end up after that? What year is it? Where does Adrian's life take him?
Let's see. I guess it was 2008. I did 2 semesters, and I probably at the time I decided to take a break, like maybe planning to go back, but I was going to Mission Wolf, which is a wolf preserve in southern Colorado for the summer, with my girlfriend at the time, with Roman, my cousin Pierre, whole crew, and we just did volunteer work at this wolf preserve,
Mm.
which is really awesome. Uh, and then I just did other jobs. I worked at a ski resort because I love to snowboard. Um, like a conservation corps job in Arizona, and then back to New York City to start violin making and metal work. So yeah, I guess it eventually just became clear that I wasn't going back to that.
Yeah, yeah. I want to run free like the horses. Did were you aware of Burning Man when you were in San Francisco?
No.
Because
No.
I feel I always imagine that's where people find out about it, because like half that city is at Burning Man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just among other college students from everywhere else in the
Yeah.
country. So no, I didn't find out. I found out about it through my brother, who had first gone, who's been there 4 times already.
Yeah.
So thanks to him.
How did tell me about that? What was the first time you were introduced to this culture?
Well, I guess so. My brother had been going a couple of times, and he would tell fantastical stories about it, uh, and eventually I started to want to go there myself and bring artwork. And it took a couple times. Like I was just stuck in New York in my shop with my rent. Just didn't apply for the grant in time, or but I ended up going for the first time in 2018.
Yeah.
And I brought 3 older horse sculptures, 1 mechanical horse, and 2 other horses.
Yeah.
And that's where Lana saw it for the first time.
What I want to go back to sort of when you were introduced to it. What about Burning Man caught your imagination? Was it this is an arts festival? Was it what was it that was being conveyed to you that made you go, oh, okay, I think this is the thing I want to check out?
Like before I went the first time?
Yes. Yeah. The 4 years prior.
Yeah, actually, it probably had to do with going to the Electric Forest Festival in Michigan first. I was paid to bring a mechanical horse there in 2016, and that was, I guess, the first kind of big art music festival that I had been to.
Yeah. How did they find you, the organizers there?
I think just online. There's
Okay.
plenty of videos of me on Facebook, and
They were like, where it's a forest rave, we want horses.
well, I guess I don't know if this probably started with Burning Man, but I guess festivals are more and more looking for artwork for the festival.
Right.
So they were definitely going down that road and looking for original cool stuff or something.
Yeah.
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 So I went there the first time, and that was introduction to that world, and probably from there on I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Burning Man too.
Yeah.
Check
What was
that out.
because I have not been to Electric Forest, and I'm not super familiar with it. So like my perception of it is like that it's maybe more like an Electric Daisy Carnival type thing. I could be hilariously wrong. I could be offending listeners for saying that. But what was your experience with it? Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like? Did you show up early to set up the sculpture? Was it the music that drew you? People interactions? Tell me about Electric Forest.
Yeah, well, I'm not a connoisseur in festivals at all. So
Yeah.
that was the first bigger music festival. I mean, Bass Nectar was there, I guess,
Yeah.
and it was a trip for sure. I mean, there was 120,000 people there camping. You know, it's in this forest, which was awesome. There's like the mechanical horse was there in the forest, and they had this disco ball, and at night it was really cool with the lights moving around it while the horse was moving, and people just went nuts over it. Like, just like, you know, some groups would come, like a group of guys would come, and they was like, oh, make it run, and like, it's taking a break, and then some girls would come by, and they're like, oh, make it run. I was like, okay, fine. uh,
Some
so
things don't change no matter what festival.
yeah.
But were you like hanging around the horse the whole time? Did you go out and
Yeah,
get in
yeah,
the crowds?
I definitely, went out and checked out things, but definitely spent a lot of time hanging around and just like, go over and be like, hey, I made that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is so interesting because so like I'm I'm a photographer, podcaster. Like I don't. It's very rare that I'll get to be in a position where I get to experience people experiencing what I've done. Like so I've always been envious of like live musicians and DJs. Like they get to like ride the energy with the crowd, which is just
Yes.
magical. And
Yep.
like, but it sounds like you do that.
I
Which is-
mean,
I wish I could do
there's-
that.
you can't avoid it. I mean, that's. I wouldn't say that's what I live for, but it's definitely a huge part. It's like, I guess it's also the type of artwork I make. It's I in a sense try to get people to I'm trying to make the most amazing sculpture I can possibly make, So I'm definitely, when I was making the Pegasus for Burning Man, I'm trying to knock people off their socks as hard as possible
Yeah.
with my artwork. Like, people who are on drugs will die. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like I was explaining in the intro. That's the that was the experience.
yeah,
You come back, you're like, what? It shoots flames?
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's a great part of it, is just watching other people watching it.
Do you think that, I guess like this comes down to like a craft versus art kind of question, right? Like, could you, if it wasn't something that you felt as passionate about, which is horses, right? Like if it was, I don't know, what's an animal you could care less about? Or not an animal, like some, I don't know, dandelions.
Contemporary art.
There you
Yeah.
go. Contemporary art. If you were commissioned to create a contemporary art piece, they just threw like a bunch of money at you. They're like, make this for our festival. Do you think you'd be able to achieve that same effect from the audience, or do you think being passionate about the thing you've created is important in that exchange energy experience we were just discussing?
Yeah, it would depend, I guess. If I had artistic freedom, I don't only make horses, and I definitely, I don't only make pieces that I try to make people go wow.
Right.
So if I had enough freedom to do what I wanted, for a more abstract piece or something, then yeah, I've done plenty of abstract work and human figure but I mean, like, it's very hard for me to apply or to like make a piece for a show that has a theme. It's like really hard for me to do that.
Right.
Like it just doesn't work for me like that.
Yeah. To be like a
so-
hired gun kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like the theme is COVID.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Okay, so Electric Forest gives it a taste of, you know, this
Yeah,
Burning Man thing.
yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's not uncommon for people to have that experience, but it's also like definitely a leap to go into like complete like Burning Man world. Tell me about that experience. Did you start to connect with the local community, or was it immediately like there's Burning Man in Nevada and that's what I'm building towards, that's what I'm going towards?
Yeah. I don't think I reached out too much to. I mean, I reached out to people because I had an extra ticket, and it was really hard to get anyone to come. Any of my friends,
Really?
I guess. Yeah, it's really hard to get people who are not burners, who've
Yeah.
never been. It's like they're like, oh yeah, and then like, do you get your plane tickets? Like, no, I can't make it, man. It's really
Yeah.
hard.
Well, I mean, it's a commitment. Like it's
It's
not
a
like
big
buying
commitment,
a ticket
yeah.
and going upstate real quick.
Yeah, it's hard.
And you've been sort of like, you feel comfortable in that environment. Like you kind of grew up roughing it.
Yeah,
What big city kids like me would call roughing it.
yeah.
Like,
No,
it's normal.
I grew up in New York City too, born and raised in Manhattan. But luckily, I had plenty of outdoors experiences, camping, and yeah. So no, I definitely loved it, and it wasn't hard for me, you know, or like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
I didn't camp till my first Burning Man regional.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, literally. And then I know plenty of people that come from, I guess, like, you know, we find each other so we can feel better about ourselves.
yeah, yeah. No, I've done plenty of camping before that, and in Colorado in the mountains, and
So tell me, so let's go back to before that first year. You had like 3 pieces. These were pieces you'd already made, and you were like, these 3 would be good to take out there. Like, what was, let's go back to sort of that year leading up to those months leading up to your first burn.
right.
You knew, like, you were certain already, because like that's the energy that you enjoy experiencing. You knew that you were going to Burning Man as an artist, because not everybody does that, right? Like, a lot of people will just go not knowing any idea what they're about to get themselves into. A lot of people will go for the music, and then when they're out there, they have a powerful spiritual experience, and now they become, you know, blah blah blah. But for you, you kind of like, you already knew that your journey to Burning Man would be as an artist taking pieces there.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you already knew those 3 pieces, or did that come together?
I guess I just had them available, and one of them was a newer piece that I had just made, but I had the mechanical horse available and another sculpture, and I guess it's like I thought while applying to the application to bring artwork to Burning Man that they would give you a ticket, and I later found out that they didn't, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm like gonna drive from New York with all this, like, I can't afford this.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, I can't come. And then later on, Maria Partridge, who's one of the art coordinators, like, okay, well, we can give you some tickets. So they gave me 3 tickets, and thank you, Maria. And you know, that's how it all kind of started. Thanks to that. I don't know if maybe I would have never gone if I didn't get those tickets.
Right. I get it.
Yeah, because my previous experience going to Electric Forest, and another music festival, was they were paying me to go there. Like, I made some money to bring my artwork there, to drive it from New York to Michigan, and it's like, what? It's like, you don't give tickets to artists? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
How many artists there are at Burning Man?
everyone's bringing something.
Yeah. Which is sort of I mean, I think many would argue that that's like one of the big differences between like the Burning Man experience versus,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
and having less of a division between the people who are making the event happen versus the people who are simply attending the event.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, everyone's a participant.
Which I was soon to discover.
Yeah. Talk about that. Did you have to pack the things up and drive out yourself? What was the journey out like? Did you find anybody for the second ticket?
Yeah, well, so I went with my brother, and we had a third ticket, and this I couldn't find anyone to come with me, so my dad was like, "Oh, I know this girl and violinist. She wants to go with you." She was like, my brother knew her, so we picked her up in not Kentucky, somewhere in the Midwest on the way, and yeah, I had my pickup truck, I had a truck slide-in camper, and I had a 20-foot trailer. So I put the truck camper on the trailer, on the flatbed trailer, with the mechanical horse and another horse, and then the third horse in the back of my truck.
Right.
That was, again, one of the science of logistics, how to fit everything on the rig.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a heavy load, and we made it all the way with my little F-150 old truck. We couldn't make it up the Rockies in Colorado. It's such a steep grade when you enter the Rockies, like going up, and the truck was just like so it's a turn around and go up to Wyoming and take I-80, which is flatter.
Yeah. How
So
long did that add to your trip?
Luckily, it wasn't that, maybe like an hour.
Oh, really?
Wasn't that bad. Yeah. Because like the Denver's right at the foot of the Rockies, so
Right.
it happened soon after.
That's
Yeah,
so
it
interesting.
was a great road trip. It's fun.
Tell me about arriving at the gate. You're there early, I'm assuming, like before the gates open.
Couple days earlier, yeah, but there was a bit of a wait for sure, and I guess we arrived at night, and we had just been sleeping on the road on the way. Yeah, it was very exciting. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to dance my ass off. And it's, I mean, I'm sure that's how it is for most people. It's like you feel the excitement. It's like you're not just going to any festival. This is something special here.
Yeah. Did you have any acclimation time your first time, or did you arrive feeling already like pretty solid and comfortable being there?
I don't know. I guess I was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. we set up in a total whiteout dust storm, so that was my first experience of that, and yeah, it was fun. It was fine.
Did you? It's fine. Burning Man, sure. Did you? This is a question that I often ask of guests. Do you have a memory of an experience of walking out like on your first night where you watch really like the city's been erected and the lights are up and all the madness is happening and you're taking it in for the first time?
Vaguely, I guess. Vague memory.
Yeah.
I remember it more the last time I went, when I did Wings of Glory, just seeing, when the sun sets and everything lights up on the playa and the horizon. That's really hard to describe that moment. That's an amazing moment.
Right.
To see that, yeah.
Did you know in your first one that you'd for sure come back to a second year?
I think so. I think the idea for Wings of Glory kicked in as I was preparing to go the first time, the first year.
Interesting.
It's like, I think maybe that year when I was going the first time, I missed the deadline to get the grant, but I could still apply to go there and bring a piece of art on my own resources. And then I'm like, okay, next year I know I'm gonna make a giant mechanical horse on fire, mechanical Pegasus.
Yeah.
It was in that process before going to Burning Man for the first time.
Had you made had the horses you'd made previously? I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question. Were they all like reality based, and then did it become more magical at Burning Man, or had you made Pegasuses before that?
No, that's an important question. It was, I think it's the event of Burning Man itself as a fresh new platform for art.
Yeah.
This is like super important. It's like it's Burning Man itself that provided the space for that inspiration to
Yeah.
make a giant mechanical Pegasus on fire. It's like that's the duality kind of between the Burning Man art world and the more common art world here in New York, and galleries and museums. Like there's no room for something like that. Or to me, it just I don't think I'd ever think of doing something like that for galleries or museums here, or the art world here, because everyone's so focused on contemporary art, and
Yeah.
to me it's very weird. So I'm super grateful for Burning Man, that it inspired me to make that piece.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's like the horse did LSD.
Yeah.
It sprouted wings and started shooting fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it broke the experience, kind of like allowed you to or I don't know, it inspired you to break past
Absolutely.
the rigidity of reality and
Yeah.
creating something more magical.
Yep.
Huh.
Totally.
So you knew right away, like, and it was specifically, it sounds like it was the Pegasus that basically decided you're for sure coming back the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knowing that I would do that project.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think I don't like to. I have not gone to many festivals, but from the beginning I've been going as a participant or bringing artwork. So I don't see myself going to Burning Man without art, or going to festivals without art.
Yeah.
I'm not a big festival person, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know, like even this podcast, like for me, I guess, I don't know if it's a creator thing, or like, would you like consider yourself more introverted or extroverted?
I for sure I used to be more introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more extrovert now.
Do you think the art helped you do that?
The art is a way for me to express, to speak to the world.
Yeah.
It express things that cannot be expressed in words. That is, the artwork is a part of my voice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, some people just don't get it. Like when they see my horse sculpture, it's like, oh, it's just a horse sculpture. But I if you can see it, I think they say a lot
Right.
about horses, or like that wild, free energy of horses. How can we embody that in our lives, and how can I be like that? Just that's how I feel. Like I want to just break out of the mold and tear down the wall of society and
Yeah.
all that crap.
I love that. It's expression. Like ultimately we're all looking for ways to express ourselves.
Mhm.
And for those of us who have been more traditionally extroverted, or perhaps been more comfortable with being extroverted from early on, maybe it could be argued that we would be less driven to create something to help communicate. But like once we are expressing ourselves with various creations and art, then we're sort of like aligning and feeling more at peace with presenting ourselves to the world, because we're feeling seen and heard.
Yes.
Like I like with this podcast, for example, I was talking to my ex-roommate Dylan. He's a very, very talented artist. He's super introverted and has a hard time getting out there among the people more than once a month. And You know, we talked about a lot how, like, you know, for me, like this podcast, for example, is a way for me to continue expressing and communicating with the world, so that when I walk into a crowded environment, I feel more at ease. Whereas, like, if I didn't have a form of expression outside of just what was, you know, I don't know, my mouth, my body, then I did feel stifled. I did feel more introverted. It didn't feel right to be there.
Yeah, because you know who you are and you discover yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives you some more solid grounds
Yeah.
to back yourself up.
Did you take back any lessons about how you would build the Pegasus from experiencing the playa, like the alkaline and the dust? Like, were there specific lessons you learned about how to make Wings of Glory that was different than your previous horse creations or mechanical creations in general, in fact?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I knew that if you oil the chains, the sprockets and the chains, that the dust would gunk up. So, yeah, I guess there's dry lubricant you can put on chains. Just small technical details like that.
Right.
Not really so much the environment. It's more just like not being able to anchor a structure into concrete. So that's why the base of it is very wide, because it has to be just freestanding with some anchors, but, you know, not your traditional engineering capabilities of anchoring into concrete. Yeah, just a few little technical details like that, but nothing really that would dictate a different mechanism inside.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, you know, right away you're making a Pegasus. You know you're going back to Burning Man with the Pegasus. Like, all those decisions were made, it sounds like, on your way.
Yeah.
So did you immediately start sketching? Were you sketching on Playa? Did you immediately start brainstorming, like fundraising? What happens next? What's the first thing that starts to happen with the creation of Pegasus?
Well, I guess I knew that this time I had to make sure to get the deadline to apply for the grant. So, so I think I was taking the train back to New York from Nevada, and I started sketching in the train. And train is, by the way, side note, a great way to travel in the Western United States.
But not in the Eastern?
Well, it's more flat. It's a little boring on the Eastern. Like,
Okay.
once you leave the Rockies, that's it. It's just all flat all the way to New York.
Yeah.
But from Denver to San Francisco, it's amazing. Yeah, great trip to make.
You can chill and
Just
sketch.
Just
and
chill, watch
see
the
beautiful
landscape.
scenery,
The
yeah.
train goes at like this perfect speed,
Yeah.
and you're not driving, you're not flying, you're in it. It's
Sold.
great. Yeah, Amtrak.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So you start sketching it. Did you have a fundraising team, or did you kind of put that plan together yourself?
Yeah, it was my first time, so I really didn't know what I was doing, and thank God for Lana. Because I was trying to, like, okay, I have to make a video on top of everything. Like, so I just like start filming myself working in the barn in the snow. And
This is how long after Burning Man?
well, I guess that was after I received the grant, which was almost exactly 2 years ago from now.
Okay.
So once I knew I had the grant, I'm like, okay, I need to make a video. And then along comes Lana.
Yeah. How did you meet?
Well, Lana saw my mechanical horse in 2018 on the playa, and and she loved the sounds it was making, and I think she reached out to me maybe earlier one time through Instagram, and I didn't really answer. Not sure. Then she reached out a second time, I guess, maybe when I announced that I got the grant and I was doing the project. And he's like, hey, I make film. I want to make a documentary. Like, oh, I need a video.
Yeah.
So it was, and the whole process of making that project was like that. It's like, I need a place to build this. Some guy comes along and says, hey, I have the most beautiful artist residency possibly in the world. You want to come make something next summer? It's like, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I'm so honored, and it's like so many people came through to help and offer their time and skills and resources, and I couldn't have done it without him. And it's just amazing. I don't know if it's like the energy of the project and Burning Man. All of a sudden like a whole different world, a whole different reality, where everyone comes together and helps to make something. I can't believe it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
He just immediately started attracting with ease exactly everything that needed.
I can't explain it.
Yeah. I love it. This is very satisfying for me as the interviewer, because like that's usually what I'm digging around for, is like, what was that magic thing?
Yeah.
That and every episode, every interview, we have people describing various things, and usually they're happening on Playa. And with yours, it's this magic thing that you're experiencing by Burning Man, like, came together immediately after, as you started working on this project.
Yeah, and I met this one guy the first time, and I didn't really know who he was, but I guess we became friends on Facebook, and then he lives in Maine, and he was doing a road trip, and he's like, oh, hey, I want to come see your studio. So he stopped by. This was, I think, maybe before or after I received the grant. And it turns out he's like this super mechanical engineer with a whole factory in Maine, like with all the machines you can think of. And I show him my project. I didn't have any intention of asking him for help. I'm like, hey, I'm working on this project for Burning Man. I just showed him my little booklet with the renderings, and he calls me up later. He's like, hey, I want to help you on this project.
Yeah.
And he's like, I will help you design and anything. And it's like, wow. And this is the guy to have for a mechanical sculpture to bring to Burning Man. It's like, yeah, it's just weird.
Are you able to comment on what the decision-making process is of which parts of the horse you could see flesh versus which parts were mechanics? Like, do you start with a full horse and then start deleting sections so that you can see the insides, or vice versa? Do you start with the bones and the anatomy first?
Well, when it comes to the mechanical horses, more of my focus goes into the mechanism, and then I sculpt around that once it's made. And for the Pegasus, I had to, it took me 2 years to design my first mechanical horse, to get it running, make a first prototype, scrap it and completely redesign it, and have finally a working model. And for the Pegasus, I had to first of all to engineer it, scaling it up 2.5 times. It's 2.5 times life-size horse, and I had to figure out a whole new system for the wing mechanism, because that was added onto the slow motion gallop that I had originally. So most of everything was focused on that mechanism and building it, and the base structure and how to power it. And then sculpting the body parts for the Pegasus was the very last step. And you can maybe see it. I see it looking back at it, like it could definitely use a couple more parts. And it was like with the time crunch and everything, like building it in 6 months.
Right.
Like it could definitely use some more parts.
I mean, it's rare that I'll meet an artist that walks away from a project, or at least is forced to walk away from a project because of deadlines. And actually, even the ones who've had all the time they wanted, it's very rare that somebody will say, yeah, it's done. I feel 100% satisfied.
Yeah.
You make a song and you put it out to the world, and they're like, those hi-hats suck. I need to go back and redo it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just part of being an artist, and continuing the evolution and always pushing to make it better. Because I guess you work from your vision of the piece, and it's never quite exactly what the vision is, and the vision is never quite so clear.
Right.
So there's always room to work on it,
Right.
improve.
I always like the Michelangelo quote. He say, "I saw the angel trapped in the stone and carved until I set him free."
Oh wow, didn't know that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
But I have to say,
Please.
the last piece I made, which was a commission of a gold plated mechanical horse for a hotel, that was I'm definitely happy with that piece.
Yeah.
It is definitely the nicest, most finely crafted piece I've ever made.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What hotel is it in?
The Daxton Hotel in Birmingham, Michigan, which
Hmm.
is near Detroit. It's a very nice, brand new luxury art hotel.
How did they find you?
Online.
Yeah.
Just probably videos of the Pegasus.
Fascinating. Yeah. Why does that one feel complete to you?
I had the time and the resources to really go all the way with it, and
Yeah.
and they had the vision to be like, please, like, we want you to make this the best piece that you can make,
Wow.
the best horse that you can make, and it's like, we want it gold plated, and we want a mirror polish gold plate. We like that. We want that, and there were some other little details, like the hoof on the back foot wasn't working great. Like, can you please, like, make that better? And like, okay, I'll try.
Wow.
It just, with those mechanical pieces, it takes so much effort to make them and to finish them and to make them look good. It's so hard. It takes so many different skills, so many different little elements of design to make it like a finished, working, reliable, good looking piece. It is so hard. And that one, I had the time and the resources to do it, and I was ready for it also.
Yeah. Could you imagine, like, I don't know, let's say you do 5 more of those where you feel absolutely fantastic about it after they're done. Do you think you would eventually, would that get boring? Like, no matter how spectacular it is? Or do you think, like, you'd be happily to do another 20 horses?
No, I definitely get bored of it. Yeah, and it's like I was finally able to finish the mechanical horse of mine. Like, they were never quite finished. It's a finished piece. So
So it's like you're almost like going to bat with this. Like, they may have been different pieces in different places, but to you, they're almost the same thing that you were trying at over and over.
yeah, I mean, I've made 2 life-size mechanical horses, the one Pegasus, and I'm working on mini mechanical horses too. But that gold one was definitely the best one I've ever made. Yeah, in terms of quality and looks, and
God, I tell you, that gives a lot of us some hope that there's it's possible to actually finish something and be happy with it and walk away.
it was another very important milestone for me. Yeah.
So, okay, back to 2019 Burning Man. Did you have any challenges putting the piece together on Playa? Did it come together?
On Playa, it went pretty smoothly. You know, I mean, it did drag on. We did finish the day Burning Man started on the Monday or the Sunday, or
How big was your team?
about 10 people.
Okay.
Yep. And luckily I had some like Sean and Pulvar from Iceland, who were already had mechanical backgrounds, so I can kind of make them team leaders to use other team members to do certain tasks.
Right. Was there any? 'Cause I've known some people who've worked on metal pieces in the desert. Was there any challenges with them heating up and you guys physically trying to like hold the thing together with your hands?
Not that I recall.
Ah.
Everything went very smooth. It
Yeah.
was incredible success. Like, set up on time, it worked. It ran perfectly for the entire week, and
You created a mechanical piece with multiple moving parts in the desert and the dust, and
Yeah.
again, like that's science fiction to a lot of people. Like this is the thing that I always look at with the art cars out there. I've always been like, God, thank God for people that bring art cars, because like I could not deal with having to tinker with that goddamn thing all week long.
Yeah. We did have some trouble running the electrical lines to all the 8 buttons that were on the 8 struts of the bass. And that was the other great interactive aspect of it, was the 8 buttons. People
Yeah.
loved that. And that was a surprise to me. But it was hard to, I don't know, we just couldn't get it to work, where the idea was that if all 8 buttons are pressed at the same time, it will run on a timer for a minute. That's how you make it run. That's how you activate it. But we couldn't get it to work, so we only made 3 of the buttons work.
Okay.
That's all we could do. So no one knew this, but only 3 of them were working. But everyone thought all 8. You need to press all 8.
I knew it. Actually, I didn't know that, but we've totally looked at pieces, like not specifically this one. I hadn't heard about this, but
Yeah.
I've definitely been privy to multiple projects on Playa that people are like, I think you're supposed to all do this at the same time. And then somebody's like, I don't think you do have to. I'm pretty sure. So it's good to know that we're not crazy, and sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's okay. You still gave people the experience of having that shared energy. Like, we did this together.
Even if they knew, they wouldn't know which
Right.
3 ones out of the 8 were the ones. So it's still, you have to press all 8 at the same time.
I feel like what you just described is like good life advice. Like in general, like you don't know which one of the things is going to be the successful thing, so you give 100% to all of it.
Yeah, no, it was so fun. It was like one guy would come up and look at the buttons. He'd be like, "Oh my God, we have to press all 8 buttons at the same time," and he'd be like, "Hey, you come here, come press the button." And he would, like, people would grab other people, and then they would all do a countdown. It's like, okay, let's do 3, 2, 1, and some guys were like really enthusiastic about it, and if they couldn't find help, they'd be like, "Oh, come on." What? Like, because I told my crew, like, we cannot help with that. We were there. I'm like, no, I'm here. This is my project. Like, you have to find someone else. It's like, oh, come on, man, just press the button. So I had never made interactive pieces like that. So that was definitely a great surprise.
What was your favorite reaction? Do you remember one? I guess it doesn't mean number one, but like one of the things, like one clear memory that stands out of somebody's experience.
I don't know. There's so many people just, crying and coming up to me saying thank you, and like having, if I was talking to somebody else, they would have to interrupt, like rudely interrupt and be like, you're the guy who made this, thank you, just had to say that. that was funny. It got annoying.
That's a good problem to have.
Not trying to brag, but it's just how it was.
The dopeness of my piece got annoying. Too many people wanted to praise. I get you, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, like, we create because we don't know how not to, but it feels good to have that experience, and you're having it from people. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's particularly satisfying to have it from that crowd, because like they're really appreciating and respecting what it is, rather than like simply stumbling past. It's not just like something in the background. Like, it deeply touched people.
Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't just like a bunch of people in a gallery in New York just like sipping on wine and not looking at any artwork and just talking nonsense.
Yeah. More like just being able to tell people afterwards that they went to the thing, right? Like,
yeah. It's like, I went to that opening. No, I mean, it was so great. People, like, I feel like it captured the inner child of people. Like, people would just stop and stare and like not know what to do or say. And they're just like, all the mental thoughts just stops, and they just stare and with their mouth open. And I took a video of that, just like going around at night while I was moving in on fire, just getting a shot of people staring at it, and like I would go up to someone and they wouldn't even flinch, like
Yeah.
of me being with my phone in front of them. They're just mesmerized by that, and again, that's like that's the greatest thing to see
Yeah.
for as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing I read recently was really saying like, as artists, performers, like whatever it is, like, maybe there isn't necessarily like the drive to create, like maybe it isn't that we have to affect change in the world or spread a certain message, but to truly be able to snap people, like to do a complete pattern interrupt where the person is more present than they've ever been in their entire life, is in that exact moment. And that's what being in complete alignment with source energy or God or Tao, whatever you want to call it, like that's what that moment is. And to be able to achieve that by facilitating that experience, that is really the only job of the artist.
Right. That's beautifully said.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, man. So, what happened? I mean, afterwards, it looks like it it sounds like the next gig that came along was the hotel, and you're it sounds like you're more in alignment with your creation than you've ever been. I imagine to some extent as a result of this experience at Burning Man.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's I think it's very rare that I had like such a clear idea of what to do for that project. I don't know if I'll ever have that again in making a piece of art. A lot of time you're rummaging in the dark and making leaps of faith, and you're stepping into the dark. But with the Pegasus, like it was so clear. It was like a mission. It was like I was Joan of Arc. It's like the mission came from above, and that was it. And after that, there's like, and it's usually like that. After you complete a big project, there is a big void.
Yeah.
And I do have inspiration and new ideas for new projects, and definitely inspired to make more interactive art and go in a different direction from the horses. It's also been really hard with COVID and all the festivals canceled, everything canceled. Like it's very hard to think of making a project because there's nowhere to show it.
Right.
So that's been a little challenging, and yeah, like my Pegasus has been sitting in storage ever since. $100 a month. Like you gotta take that into consideration when you're making a piece of art that scale. Like it's already hard to move around the life-size horses, and one exhibit ends and I have to fly over there to pick it up. Like it's drag
Right.
to move sculpture around. So
Is it, by the way, a question I wish I'd asked earlier? Do you refer to the Pegasus as a they, she, or him?
I guess it's a she, and she is named Nebula Rider.
That's cool. Does she want a permanent home?
Yeah, that's also another hard thing, like to have a mechanical piece out there on permanent display. I would definitely want to rebuild it to have it on permanent display. Does she want a permanent home? Yeah, one day for sure. Like I was planning to tour with it, festival to festival, and all sorts of venues across the country. But then COVID happened, so.
Right. So if somebody is listening to this episode and they have like, what would they need to pitch you for you to consider giving her a permanent home? Is it the property, the side of the country? Would you need to be in a position to go and regularly check up on her and tune her up?
No, it's just a question of money.
Fair, okay.
You got the money, I'll make it, and
I feel like that's the easy part.
Yeah,
honestly, because there's more and more of these spaces popping up around the country, and more people that I know because for years I've been having people reaching out to me, having these conversations about like where did these pieces end up, and there's a lot of art projects that come out of the burn and end up like, you know, like storage is a good space, is a good situation.
Yeah.
There have been other situations where they end up kind of like falling apart, you know, dilapidating on some property somewhere because nobody knows where to put them.
Yeah.
In this piece, I feel like there is somebody out there who's looking to establish a right home for her.
Oh yeah, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
And I was just hesitating because I would be a little reluctant to find a permanent home for the one that I made for Burning Man, because it was a prototype. It was the first one, and I would completely redesign it.
But what if somebody wants that one specifically?
Oh yeah, they can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has playa on it.
Yeah, that's true. It still does.
Yeah.
Um,
That's like a thing for
yeah.
people. you
Yeah, I
know?
have a whole bunch of postcards that I give out that have some playa dust on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a magical card.
And Adrian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for bringing this amazing piece. I mean, it was such a standout. Such a standout. It was like, for me, it was very much like, I don't know how to articulate this. It was definitely one of the pieces that people looked at when they were in Black Rock City, that you look around and you go like, I don't know, did this thing land from another planet? like it really was a standout piece. It really did touch a lot of people. It was the talk amongst a lot of people that I interacted with, and this particular interview, on so many levels, it touches me personally, because it is the way that producer Alana and I met. Was that she reached out after having worked on the video with you, and she'd been listening to the podcast for a year, and said, you should interview this guy. So really, this whole past year, a lot of Lana and I's conversations have been about, when do we track down Adrian? And you've been bouncing around. You're in, Nevada for a while, and you're traveling and going different places. So there's a lot of alignment and synchronicity with us connecting here. And your energy is so, it's peaceful. And I think you're a lovely example of being an allower. You're focusing on creating, and you allowed the pieces to come together rather than forcing them and dominating them. And from everything you're describing, your energy as an attractor very much infused itself with the Pegasus on playa, with your team. It worked beautifully and seamlessly. So I really appreciate this conversation, and I really appreciate everything that I've gotten to learn about that process, and it's very inspiring, and I want to really, really thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's been a real honor. You had some really great questions that I haven't been asked before. It was really great to elaborate on them and to consider those questions. And yeah, it's part of it's a whole magic. It's really a magical journey, and really thank you to you guys. Thank you to everyone that helped me on this project. There really were many people who gave a lot of their time and skills and resources. Thank you to my amazing crew at Burning Man for roughing it with me for 2 weeks and setting it up and taking it down. Thank you to everyone who's ever helped me in my career as an artist, and my family, and yeah, it's a beautiful journey, and I am so grateful for everything.
I love
So
that.
grateful.
We're grateful for you, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are now listening to the sounds of Gorgon City. The set that you're hearing was recorded at Playground on Wednesday night of Burning Man 2019. I caught Gorgon City's full live performance actually at Crossed Fest a few years ago in San Diego, and it was their first time headlining an American festival. I think, I could be wrong about this, but I just remember them like really, really gushing to the crowd about how honored they were and how happy they were to have made it this far. So Anyway, I love their album, but that authenticity left me with a warmer feeling about them, and we're very excited to be sharing that set with you now after this interview with Adrian. You can just go to gorgoncity.com and all their links will be over there. Please leave us a review on iTunes or on your podcast platform of choice, and message us if you want to support the show by contributing in any fashion. You're always invited to pitch interviews in your neck of the woods. All these links are over at burnerpodcast.com, where you'll also find links to Alkaline, Build to Burn, Into the Fire, and Music.bm. Our producers are Louis Gallipo in Bermuda and Lana Boy in Brooklyn. Our opening theme music, America's Horse With No Name Remix, is produced by Joman. He is over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. The perfect piece of music for today's episode. Until next time, love, light, and all the other crap. Take us back to the playa, Gorgon City.
machine. I know you try to hide from me. I don't know why you lie to me. I wish you would confide in me. Eyes are like a lie machine. I know you try to hide from me. I don't know why you lie to me. I wish you would confide in me. I don't want to be with you if you keep on deceiving. Me with all these things you say, you know I don't believe them. Every time I let you in, you leave me from the bleeding. My eyes are like a lie machine. I know you're trying to hide from me. I don't know why you lie to me. I wish you would confide in me. My eyes are like a lie machine. I know you're trying to hide from me. I don't know why you lie to me. I wish you would confide in me. Eyes are like a lie machine. I know you're trying to hide from me. I don't know why you lie to me. I wish you would confide in me. Close your eyes and open wide. You take my hand and come with me. Baby, I got what you want. Baby, I got what you need. Close your eyes and open wide. Take my hand and come with me. You feel the tingle on the tip of your tongue.
can give it and you know it. If you want it, then come show it. I can give it and you know it. 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 And you Motorola. In my Motorola. In my Motorola. In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. In my Motorola. In my Motorola. In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. You hear me whistle, baby, come a little closer. Why don't you put your number in my Motorola? In my Motorola. In my Motorola. In my Motorola.
I wish I was there for you. Wish I was holding you closer than close every day of your life. Wish I was there for you. 'Cause when we're together, there's so much to love and so little time. I wish I was there for you. And I wish that you were there for me too. Wish I was there for you.
Too young, though we knew what we were feeling. Me and you, we had no clue, and now we're lost and have no meaning. We know that we need to let go. It's the end of the road. Don't hold back. We can get by on our own. You and I just can't be free. All I know is that we used to be real. 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 We used to be real.
burnerpodcast.com.